Hey everyone, Catch 'em All Collectibles here. First off, if you're watching this video right when it comes out, I want to say I hope you had a very Merry Christmas and I hope you have a great Happy New Year. But yeah, in today's video, I'm going to cover a topic that I've touched on a couple times in some lengthier videos, maybe live streams. I don't believe I've done a devoted video to it though. Auctions versus buy it nows. Both I want to cover the pros and cons from both sides, as you see here. And then I'm just going to talk a little bit about my Buy It Now Consignment service. Obviously, I've got to talk about that a little bit, link down in the description below. And then my business strategy as it revolves around the topic at hand of auctions versus Buy It Now. We're all playing a different game. I've said that many times. I said that in my financial advice video, but it's very, very true. And we're all playing a different game in the same arena. And the first bullet point here, there's not only one answer. There's not one universal answer of which is air quotes better, buy it nows or auctions from either side, the buyer side or the seller side. In parentheses there, I've got that we love nuance. It's not fence sitting. It's just the fact that it's not always black or white. It's not always right or wrong. It's usually a spectrum and it's usually a case by case basis. And I will go through in this video how and when I think buy it nows are optimal versus auctions and vice versa. So yeah, just a couple more considerations. Everyone out there, again, we're playing a different game. We all have different goals. We all have different time frames. We all have different amounts of free time or leisure time to devote to this. And we all have very different amounts of capital as well. Different points in our lives, different points in our journey. Maybe we're just getting in, maybe we're getting out. At the end of the day, everyone's story is very different. And every card is different. Every card, every item is very different. There might be a card that, yeah, absolutely, that's a buy it now. On the seller side, absolutely, you want to buy an auction if you're the buyer. And there's other times where it's just flopped. It's the opposite. And some of those things on bullet point 3, they come down to market availability, scarcity, rarity considerations. A Greninja Gold Star, a Griddle Greaser P, they're not the same as illustrators. They're not the same as Japanese set cards, Japanese promo cards. Very, very large amounts of diversity out there in this huge market that we're all playing in, that we're all a part of. And a little bit of motivation for this video. I think I've made some comments before on auctions versus buy it now that were more, a little bit less wiggle room in them. I think I've said, yeah, you generally should be buying auctions and you should be selling buy it nows, which that's more my personal bias inserted into the situation. That's my own personal bias, my own personal situation. And again, I'll touch on that. I'm not the only person interacting in this market. There's a broad diversity of people, broad diversity of items. And I think I've made comments that were too too specific to me. And I tried to like paint with that broad brush on everybody as a whole. Oh yeah, auctions are generally better. Buy it nows are generally better to sell. Auctions are better to buy. But yeah, I'll go through in this video why that may not necessarily be true for you. Buyer considerations. This is on the buying side of the equation. These are the questions I would ask myself with respect to, hey, I want to buy XYZ. Who am I? What is the item? Is auction the best, or is buy it now the best to look for? One, do you have more time or more capital? Very generally, if you have more time available and you can scrounge Buy and you can scrounge eBay, Heritage, Golden, PWCC, this huge list of auctions that are ongoing on a weekly basis, monthly basis, quarterly basis. Generally, if you have more time, maybe you should lend yourself towards auctions. You have more capital and you have less time, and I have some specific examples later on in the presentation of theoretical people that might go towards one or the other. But if you're very in a time pinch, but you have the free capital and you value your time very highly, maybe you go towards the buy it now. Couple clicks, you own the item. It'll be at your doorstep in a few days, and you didn't have to spend hours and hours searching left and right, high and low, to maybe not even end up finding the item you were after. Item liquidity and pass spread on auctions versus buy it now. Very, very important when it comes to buy it nows versus auctions. If I'm a buyer and I look up the last sold over the last 90 days on eBay and auction sell for 50 and buy it now sell for 100, fairly more obvious that I'm going to lean towards the auctions if I have the time to do so. There are a lot of items out there in that wheelhouse A lot of items I sell on my eBay, I low list around 100, I low list around 500 when the auctions are selling at half or 2/3 of that. And I'm getting 20, 30, 40% premiums on these cards from people that don't have the money, don't have the time to look for the cheaper auctions, or just at the end of the day they decide I have this money, I want that card, I'm gonna buy it. Whatever the reason is, like, these things don't have fixed singular market prices. They have very large ranges. I've done many conversations on that concept in the past. But yeah, another consideration that a buyer should make: what are the long-term prospects of the card? Are they highly positive or highly negative? This is more than just, should I buy it as an auction or should I buy it as a buy it now? This might be like, should I grade it myself? Should I not even buy it today, and should I buy it in 5 years or 5 months or 20 years down the line? So I'm not going to get like really deep into those considerations, more just buy it now versus auction. But yeah, if long term here being, I guess, shorter term in the grand scheme of things, but in 6 months, in a year, are these things going to likely be lower than they are today? Generally speaking, the buy it nows might be overpriced. One thing you need to watch out for, and I'm kind of a culprit of this, a lot of my items in my eBay store, my own personal inventory, they might be 6 months, 12 months old. We've been in a declining market broadly for the past couple years since the 2020 bubble, 2020 bubble boom, whatever you want to call it. So if the card has been trending down a bit, the low listed buy it now might be dated. It might be old. I would watch for that. I would check recent solds. That might be where you see auctions going for 50. Buy it now is listed at 100. Not even selling at 100, just listed at 100. So if the card is on a slight downtrend, you need to be careful, because oftentimes the buy it nows might not be very up to date, and auctions might just be a better deal, frankly, because all the buy it nows are old stale listings that are reflecting a prior price point that where the market was higher. And then market availability now and in the future. One thing you need to watch out for, I mean, sometimes I found myself back when I was building my collection of PSA 9 hollows, and oh, that buy it now is a little high. I'll wait on the next auction that comes up. That auction never comes up. When I was buying some of the more scarce at the time, PSA 9 H22 from Skyridge, PSA 9 random set cards, they weren't always there in high frequency. They weren't being auctioned off every week. They were a little bit more scarce. Prices went up generally from 2014 to 2019 when I was in the hobby building these collections. And there were times where I definitely passed out on buy it nows that were low list, seeing that auctions went a little bit lower, but then more auctions didn't come up before the price rose and the price doubled, and I found myself buying an auction for higher than the buy it now I could have bought it at a year prior. So if the item is something that you think is going to trend up over time, if the item is something that's not widely available, not coming up that much, your hands might be kind of tied. You might have to go towards the buy it now because it's the only one there. You might have to go towards the auction because it's the only one there. Sometimes your hands are tied and you're kind of pushed into one way or the other, whether if you want to acquire that card at that point. So sometimes you don't always have the choice, but where you do, I would definitely say, like, if the item is being auctioned every day, if it's always there, usually what happens is there's a buy it now auction spread. It does happen sometimes where the auction goes above the low list buy it now, but generally speaking, the low list buy it nows, especially if there's 50 of them, if there's 50 buy it nows between 900 and 1,000, you run that item on an auction, it's probably not going to go above 900, because that kind of paints a ceiling for the item. So yeah, if it's an item that's frequently being transacted, if there's always another auction the other day, the next day, I would lean more towards the auction to try to get that lower price point. Just some of the considerations that I would work through on the buying side. And now we'll do the selling side. We did the buying side, so now we'll do the selling side. If I'm a seller, if I'm looking to sell a card into the market, the most important thing above all else, I think, how soon do I need the money? What's my current cash flow? What is my opportunity cost on trying to list as a buy it now to achieve that extra 10, 20, 30, 40%? And if I need to pay a credit card bill, if my car just broke, if my furnace just broke, if I have a big bill that I just have to pay, sometimes your hands are tied, just like I was saying before. Sometimes you're just, I need the money now. I need the money within a week or two. I'm going to go to an auction because of that. And I mean, that's a reasonable play. Ideally, I've talked about this concept before too. You don't want to put yourself in a position where you have to sell, but if and when you ever do, auctions kind of win out in many regards because they are forced liquidity. They are a forced sale. You can run into instances, unfortunately, where buyers shill bid, they don't pay, their car just broke down, they can't afford it anymore, their kid bid, whatever the case may be. But generally speaking, auctions sell quicker than Buy It Nows. A little bit of nuance thrown in there. If you've got an item that's highly desirable and the low list is 1,000 and recent auctions are going around 1,000, sometimes auctions and Buy It Nows go very, very close. If you pop up a Buy It Now, instead of having to wait a week for your auction to complete, I've sold items successfully the day that I listed them, $950 when they're recently going for 1,000. You take that slight little haircut maybe, but you get the money that same day. You can never guarantee that. You can never guarantee that with a Buy It Now, but there are certain items out there that you put them up at the right price and you post it on your Instagram, you put it on eBay, people have those save searches out there. You can sell items in an instant at times with Buy It Nows as well. So again, a little bit of nuance on all these points. It's not black and white. It's not like always Buy It Nows are better, always auctions are better. These are just some of the things I think through. And then a second point for seller considerations on Buy It Nows versus auctions. What are the long-term prospects for both the broader market and the card? An example I put in parentheses there, 2020 to today. I have some items in my eBay store. The listings are 6 months to a year plus old. Those items have gone down between now and then. I was low list Buy It Now in the market at the time that I listed them thinking, hey, selling Buy It Nows is optimal. But in hindsight, these items have sat for 6, 12, 18 months and not sold. Meanwhile, the market's gone down 50%, 60, 70, 80% on some of these items. Had I just auctioned it, so say the market price I thought was X in 2020. Well, now the market price is 0.2X. Had I gotten 50% of market the day that I listed them, two things. I would have had that cash flow for a year and a half. I would have had that money compounding, doing things in my business. And now all I have is an item that dropped 80%. So had I auctioned them off a year ago, I would have been further ahead, obviously. In the same span of time, some amount of my Buy It Nows did sell. Overall, as a broader picture, was I better off doing them all auctions or all Buy It Nows versus had I done them all auctions? Clearly, in hindsight, 2020, I should have just clicked auction all on everything in my eBay. Not too much of my eBay inventory survived 2020, but I have some stuff from late 2020, early 2021, getting into that, as I said, 12, 18-month period of being listed. And one thing I do to kind of cycle out old Buy It Now inventory is I just send offers. You click the send offer button. I'll need to make a future standalone video on that. Just talking about older inventory and kind of stimulating the sale of Buy It Nows, or just deciding ultimately to send things to auction instead, which I haven't done in over a year on my eBay. But yeah, third consideration, liquidity of the card, and then the normal market spread, Buy It Now versus auction on past sales. I talked about that in the last point a little bit. Obviously, whether you're the seller or the buyer, it's kind of it's this opposite, but it's the same interaction, but from opposite sides. So some of the same considerations are at play. If I have an item that I want to sell and it's very, very niche, a lot of times where I see this is very, very niche stuff. Maybe it's a stamped Worlds card, maybe it's some obscure promo, and I see Buy It Now selling for $100, $200, and I see auction selling for $30 to $80, something like that. Like, there are items that absolutely would sell at times for under half of what it would sell for as a Buy It Now, solely because there's not many people looking for it. And maybe you hit the week that they're on vacation. Maybe you hit the week that they just don't log into eBay. You need to be careful with like really obscure, ultra niche stuff, because the amount of exposure that you get over weeks or months, or ideally you don't go over a year, but weeks or months, you get a lot more eyes than you do in a 7-day span of an auction. So yeah, I would look at what's the liquidity of the card. If there's none in the sales history of the past 90-day on eBay, I would be a little leery putting that up for auction, just because there might not be enough people actively searching that. It might be too niche for its own good to go to an auction. So yeah, a little bit of considerations. Let me know in the comments below. Anything else I missed on buyer considerations that you go through in your mind, or seller considerations? Anything I missed? Anything you'd like to add? Anything you think stands out to you as being the most important? Two examples, two theoretical types of people, and why there is not a one-size-fits-all answer. Here's person A. They work 60 to 80 hours a week at their day job, making $200,000 a year. $200,000 a year, you do the math on it, about $100 an hour. Very, very hefty wage. I've never made half that in my professional career before I started doing this. I never had a salary in the 6-figure range. And there are probably people watching this video right now. There are definitely people in the community They're doing the career thing. They're climbing the ladder. They put most of their work in there, 60, 80 hours a week, 100 hours a week, whatever it may be. They value their time heavily. Maybe they have a family outside of work. They might only have a few hours a week to devote to the hobby as a whole, if that. They're not the ones finding themselves in a 12-hour live stream or watching back, listening back to a 5-hour podcast, 3-hour podcast, collecting out of nostalgia, no care for future value. Some of these details I'm putting in are kind of unimportant to the situation, but person A might be someone that, as a buyer, is way more likely to just go, hey, Dan's got a huge store of 2,000 items on his eBay. A lot of them are consignments, some of them are his own items. I know that they're probably priced above last eBay sold for auctions, but they're generally, 99% of the times, they're going to be the low list buy it now. I am like the ideal seller for someone in this circumstance, or I mean, many other circumstances too, but this would be a person that I think would be way more prone to just going and clicking buy it now on the low list. And that's reasonable. If they make $100 an hour on their day job or whatever the number may be, they're not going to save that. Every hour they put on eBay, browsing auctions, saving searches, they could pour 10 hours in a week and not find the 5 or 10 cards they're after. They might just not be there. And I might have them sitting there in my buy it now. So kind of like chasing pennies and costing yourself dollars worth of time they could have spent with their family, whatever it may be. That's just like a theoretical example. Person B, a different example. I was more person B back in 2014 when I got into it. And 10 to 40 hours a week in the hobby. Maybe they're doing this as a side hustle. Maybe they're doing it as a side gig, whatever it may be. They don't have as much capital. When I joined the hobby, I had $5,000 I allocated to the hobby. And I had more time than I had money, going back to the point I made in the buyer considerations. And I was looking to maximize the spend of my dollar, whereas person A might be more looking to maximize their time. I want to get as many cards as possible in my 2 hours a week, and if I spend an extra $500, an extra $1,000 doing that, I don't care. It doesn't matter. So very, very different people, very different situations. Person B would be more likely the one trying to buy the auctions, trying to save the pennies. They've got the time. They enjoy the hunt. Part of it too comes down to like, do you enjoy it? Person A might find it very tedious. I don't want to go through and I don't want to search. I don't want to treasure hunt and come up with nothing. I just want to buy what I want and then be done with it. And that's a very reasonable take to have. Those people exist. I'm more like person B. I was more like person B in 2014. Now, I put in the title here 2 examples on my own strategy. I don't have it listed on the slide, but me being a business, this is what I do, like 60 hours a week. I want to be like, and I enjoy the hunt too. I want to be on eBay, Golden, Heritage, PWCC. I want to be browsing Buy. I want to be finding like the diamond in the rough and buying that at auction so that I can flip it to buy it now. I want to make the item available to those who don't have the time to do the digging. Another thing that I do too, a lot of people don't want to buy 50,000 cards at a time or 20,000 cards at a time like the binder collection I just bought. They don't want to buy a lot of 100 cards all graded, different grades. They want to buy that one card graded. So another part of my business is not only auctions versus buy it nows, it's just buying large lots and then selling them as singular items. That's I guess that's a conversation I've had separately in different videos. But yeah, I think to say that, oh, you're dumb if you buy it nows, or it's stupid to ever sell as an auction, that's way too oversimplified, and it's just not that black and white. And honestly, as I mentioned back towards my motivation for making the video, I think I've given off the wrong feeling in some of my comments I've made in live streams. And I've actually had people kind of like reach out to me and talk to me about it. And I realized that I should probably make this video and break down more of the nuance and just discuss when and why auctions might be better to sell at. Little bit of thing I wanted to cover, a little bit of self-promotion, link down in the description below. I do sell Buy It Now consignments. If you don't need the cash flow immediately, if you want to be more of a patient seller, if you want to extract more value out of your items, generally speaking, if you think the long-term prospects of the items are better, more so than worse, if you think the trend might be up instead of down on the items you're selling, there's a link down in the description below. Feel free to reach out to me. Important, if you do end up deciding to consign with me through my Buy It Now consignment service, fully declare and add a signature to the package when you ship it to my PO box. It absolutely needs to be done. My business insurance will cover it. I'm in the process, unfortunately, of going through a claim where an item was shipped to me I'll link in the description below Rattle's video talking about it. Rattle did a great job giving all the details of the situation, and unfortunately it was slightly underdeclared from what the full value was. I think it was coming from international. I think a lot of international people have this thing in their mind where, oh, we need to declare it low to avoid fees, and that there are no really import fees to speak of. I pay like 0.3% from time to time on some inbound shipments. But anyways, yeah, I'll link Rattle's video below. Hopefully that package can be found, or the insurance will either pay out on it. Just covering a little bit what my Buy It Now consignment is. If you deem it right for you, and if I think it is optimal to use my service to sell your items, there's a $20 minimum fee, and the fee is $20% up to $2,500. So I do have a $100 minimum item requirement, but say you send it in to me and the prices decline or whatever the case may be, and it ends up selling for under $100, I will charge $20 minimum, or it will be 20% all the way up to $2,500, and then 5% for every dollar thereafter, after $2,500. And there's a fee calculator on the form. If that sounds too confusing and you want to just see what the fee is, you can download or make a copy of the form. You can plug in your own number. Hey, the item's going to sell for $750. The item's going to sell for $7,500. Whatever the number is, you put it in there. It'll tell you what your net would be. But yeah, if and when you deem, hey, I need the money quicker, Dan's Buy It Now consignment doesn't seem right for me. There are times where people reach out to me. I need the money really quick. I want to list these items at these prices. And I just say, like, I don't think these will sell quick enough for you. I'm always going to tell you if I'm not the right guy for you. That's if you reach out to me to sell your collection and I think someone else will pay more, I will tell you who to go to. Same thing here. In closing, I just want to shout out some great auction options. I think the Buy It Now consignment service that I offer is best for me. Like as a business, I very infrequently, if ever, auction things. I think my cash flow considerations, where I'm at as a business, Buy It Now has just worked for me better overall. I think achieving that last little bit, that extra premium over the auction generally, I think that's the route that's best for me. If it's best for you, reach out and we can have that business relationship. If not, check out James, ZNG Emporium, Rusty, TCA Gaming, Nick, Old Skool Pokemon. This isn't an exhaustive list. This is just a short list of a few guys I think are doing a great job, with the first three being eBay auctions, and then the second two being Whatnot auctions. I have used their consignment services, both Vandy Flips Pokemon and Echo Base Collectibles. They have auction Whatnot consignments, and when I use those, little bit of my business strategy, I sell through them raw cards that aren't worth grading and aren't worth selling for me individually. So their Whatnot consignment services are great for that. And on eBay, I've literally not auctioned one of my own items in over a year now, and maybe slightly under a year. I think I did one or two auctions in January of 2022. But if and when I ever auction again, I'd likely send it to James from ZNG Emporium. He's offering 13.9% rates for 2023, which is barely more than you'd pay selling yourself. The only items I'm potentially considering sending to them are, I have PSA 8 and 9 English set cards from the mid-eras, Diamond and Pearl, Platinum, things like that. I think items like that, if I list them myself, they kind of had downward pressure on their future prices because so many are being graded. The pops were really low artificially because people just weren't valuing them, weren't grading them. $15 PSA is open. PSA's prices are getting cheaper. Their turnaround times are going down. So if you think you have a card that has a lot of external factors that are downward pressure on the price, selling today for maybe half of what Buy It Nows go for might be better off than listing a Buy It Now, having it not be sold in a year when the price is 50 or 80% lower. So I might have, on top of another consideration, I don't have the time, at least in the short term, to get through all of my own items that I have. 1,500 to 2,000 items have been coming back to me over the last month or two from PSA, BGS, CGC, and I'm flooded with plastic. When customer consignments come in, they're priority one. I list all. I've never taken over 2 days to list a customer consignment after we agree on pricing, and I'm very committed to keeping that up. So consignments have been going well. I've not become flooded. If and when I do, I'll definitely put out a video, and I'll slow down the submissions. I'll either close it, whatever it may be. But yeah, I'm committed to getting the customers consignments out listed in front of mine. And I literally just have shoe boxes of PSA graded cards, CGC graded cards around me. So maybe for the new year, I'm back and forth on it. I'm still torn. I might chuck out a couple hundred auctions. And if I do, I'll make a video about it, talk about the process, how it went. But yeah, James, Rusty, and Nick are out there with great eBay auction consignment services. If you want to check out Buy It Now Consignment services, though, feel free to reach out. Link in the description. Instagram, email, Discord, however you want to get a hold of me. I'm here. But yeah, again, I hope you had a very Merry Christmas. I appreciate you all watching, and I will catch you all later.